Welcome back to Hard Hat Chat, everyone. I'm Justin Smith, CEO of Contractor Plus, and joining me, as always, is Gerritt Bake, CEO of Build Pro. Today, we're diving into a topic that confuses homeowners, frustrates contractors, and somehow still gets ignored: why most contractors don't make money even in a booming market. This topic frustrates a lot of people because on the surface, it doesn't make sense. Work is everywhere. Phones are ringing, backlogs are full, demand is high, and yet most contractors still feel broke, stressed, behind, or one bad job away from panic. From the outside, it looks like a boom. From the inside, it feels like survival.
That contradiction is the heart of the problem. The industry talks about revenue like it's success. We did a record year. We doubled our sales. We're booked out 6 months. But when you ask the follow-up question, what did you actually keep? The room gets quiet.
And that silence tells you everything, because most contractors don't struggle to find work. They struggle to turn work into profit. They're busy, not healthy; occupied, not stable. And the busier they get, the harder it becomes to see where the money's actually going.
That's the trap. A booming market hides bad math. When work is scarce, mistakes show up fast. When work is abundant, mistakes get buried under volume. Contractors assume growth will fix problems. Instead, growth amplifies them.
One of the biggest reasons contractors don't make money is simple but painful. They price work based on what feels competitive, not what's sustainable. They look at what others are charging instead of what their own business actually costs to run.
And that happens because most contractors never truly calculate their real overhead. They know material costs, they know labor costs, but they don't fully account for everything else: admin time, callbacks, fuel, insurance increases, equipment wear, unpaid estimating hours, downtime, mistakes, and stress.
Stress is expensive, by the way. Burned out owners make worse decisions. They rush estimates. They accept bad jobs. They avoid hard conversations. All of that quietly costs money.
Another major issue is optimism. Contractors are builders by nature. They believe they can figure it out. They believe things will go smoothly. They believe problems will be minor. That optimism helps them take on work, but it kills margins when reality shows up.
Every job starts with hope. This one will go clean. This client seems reasonable. The plans look solid. And sometimes that's true. But when it's not, the estimate doesn't change. Only the workload does.
And then there's the habit of absorbing costs instead of addressing them. Contractors eat small overruns constantly. A little extra labor here, a little extra material there, a couple of unpaid hours. It doesn't feel like much until it adds up across dozens of jobs.
Contractors rarely lose money in one dramatic moment. They bleed it slowly, quietly, in ways that don't show up until tax season or when cash runs tight for no obvious reason.
Another reason contractors don't make money in a boom market is that they confuse cash flow with profit. Money comes in fast during busy seasons. Bills get paid, things feel okay. But profit isn't what's left in the checking account. It's what remains after everything is accounted for.
And when contractors don't separate those two, they make decisions based on temporary comfort instead of long-term reality. They hire too fast. They expand too quickly. They take on overhead they can't sustain once demand cools.
Booming markets encourage expansion before discipline. Contractors feel pressure to keep up. More trucks, more crews, more jobs. But every expansion increases complexity, and complexity requires systems. Without systems, growth becomes chaos.
Most contractors didn't start businesses because they love systems. They started because they're good at the work. The problem is that being good at the work doesn't automatically make you good at running the business that delivers the work.
And the bigger the business gets, the more that gap hurts. The owner becomes the bottleneck. They estimate, they sell, they manage, they solve, they chase payments, they answer phones, they do everything, and everything suffers.
Another hidden profit killer is poor job selection. In a booming market, contractors feel like they should say yes to everything. They don't filter. They don't qualify clients. They don't ask whether the job fits their strengths.
Not all work is good work. Some jobs drain profit no matter how well you execute them. Difficult clients, tight timelines, poorly defined scopes, risk-heavy projects. Contractors take them anyway because they're afraid to slow down.
And fear-based decisions almost always cost money.
Then there's the issue of delegation. Many contractors stay small because they don't trust others to do things their way. But doing everything yourself limits scale and burns you out. Burnout leads to mistakes. Mistakes cost money.
Ironically, the contractors who complain they can't afford help are often losing more money by not getting help. Admin mistakes, missed follow-ups, poor scheduling, all of those are expensive.
Another factor is change orders, or rather, how poorly they're handled. Contractors are afraid to charge for changes because they don't want conflict, so they absorb the cost. They tell themselves it's easier. It's never easier in the long run.
Every uncharged change teaches the client that scope is flexible and pricing is negotiable. That erodes margins fast.
And let's not ignore lifestyle creep. When revenue increases, expenses follow. New trucks, better tools, a bigger shop. None of those are bad unless they're funded by hope instead of profit. Hope is not a financial strategy. The hardest truth is this: a booming market doesn't reward effort, it rewards structure. Contractors who lack structure work harder for less. Contractors with structure work less for more.
And that's why so many contractors feel trapped. They're successful on paper, but exhausted in reality. They're busy, but not free. They're proud of their work, but anxious about their finances.
Most contractors don't fail because they're bad at construction. They struggle because they run growing businesses with survival era habits.
And in next part, we're going to dig deeper into the specific behaviors and decisions that quietly kill profitability, even when work is abundant, and why the market rewards discipline more than hustle. Short break, then we continue. Stay tuned, we'll be right back after a short break. And hey, if you're a contractor looking to scale your business without adding more chaos, check out Contractor Plus. It's the only app you'll ever need to run your business from start to finish. CRM, estimates, invoices, payments, plus powerful integrations like QuickBooks, Zapier, Authorize.net, ABC Supply, and more. Go further, win more, and work smarter. We're back, and now this is where contractors usually start nodding quietly because the problems stop feeling abstract and start feeling personal. This is the part where people realize, yeah, that's me. Because most profit problems don't come from one massive mistake. They come from habits that feel normal inside the industry.
One of the biggest habits is underestimating how much management actually costs. Contractors often price jobs as if their time is free. Estimating time, supervising time, client communication, driving between sites, fixing mistakes. That time gets treated like it doesn't count because no invoice is attached.
But time is the most expensive resource in the business. When owners spend 40 to 60 hours a week managing chaos, that cost doesn't show up on a job cost report. It shows up in exhaustion and poor decision making.
And exhaustion leads to shortcuts. Shortcuts in estimating, shortcuts in documentation, shortcuts in follow-ups. Those shortcuts don't save money. They push costs into places you don't see until it's too late.
Another quiet profit killer is lack of job costing discipline. Contractors often know whether a job felt good or felt bad, but they don't always know why. Without real post-job analysis, the same mistakes repeat.
Feeling busy creates the illusion of progress. But without data, improvement is guesswork. Contractors end up trusting gut feelings instead of patterns, and guts get tired. And here's a hard truth: many contractors don't actually know which jobs make them money. They assume bigger jobs are better jobs. Sometimes they are. Sometimes they're just bigger risks. Complexity scales faster than profit. More trades, more coordination, more variables. One small misstep can erase margin on a large job much faster than on a simple one.
Another issue is pricing fear. Contractors are afraid to price for uncertainty. They price for best case scenarios because they don't want to scare clients away. That fear feels logical in a competitive market, but it's destructive in a booming one.
In a hot market, the leverage shifts to the contractor. but many don't realize it. They keep pricing like demand is fragile when demand is actually strong.
And then there's the fear of saying no. Saying no feels risky. What if the work dries up? What if this is the last good lead? That fear causes contractors to accept jobs that don't fit their business model. But bad jobs cost more than no jobs. They drain energy. They distract from good opportunities. They clog schedules with stress instead of profit. Another major drain is poor internal communication. Crews don't always know the full scope. Changes don't always get relayed clearly. Mistakes happen not because people are careless, but because information is fragmented. Fragmented information creates rework. Rework destroys profit quietly. Contractors rarely bill for rework. They absorb it. And absorbing rework becomes normalized. That's just construction. But normalizing loss doesn't make it acceptable. It just hides it. There's also the issue of weak financial
Visibility. Many contractors only look at numbers once a month, or worse, once a quarter. By the time they notice a problem, it's already baked into multiple jobs.
Profit requires feedback loops, fast ones. Waiting months to evaluate performance is like steering while looking in the rearview mirror.
Another overlooked factor is hiring too fast without structure. In a boom, contractors hire quickly to keep up, but onboarding takes time. Training takes patience. Mistakes increase before productivity does.
Labor is expensive, not just because of wages, but because of learning curves. Every new hire costs more than their paycheck in the early stages.
And when systems aren't ready, owners fill the gaps themselves. That leads back to burnout.
Burnout is the silent profit killer nobody budgets for. Tired owners accept bad deals, miss warning signs, and avoid confrontation. All of that leaks money.
Another uncomfortable truth: many contractors don't review contracts carefully. They rush paperwork because they want to start work. Hidden clauses shift risk to the contractor. Payment terms stretch cash flow. Dispute language favors clients.
Legal exposure is financial exposure. One bad clause can wipe out months of profit.
And then there's the myth of we'll make it up on the next job. Contractors convince themselves losses are temporary. That mindset prevents correction. Hope again replaces strategy. Even marketing plays a role here. Contractors chase leads instead of chasing fit. More leads don't fix a broken funnel, they just increase noise.
The contractors who struggle financially aren't lazy or incompetent. They're overwhelmed. They're operating businesses designed for survival inside markets that demand strategy.
And markets don't care how hard you work. They care how well you manage risk.
This part really lands here. Profitability problems in booming markets aren't caused by lack of opportunity. They're caused by lack of structure, discipline, and visibility.
In this part, we're going to talk about what actually changes this. Not theory, not motivation, but practical shifts in mindset and behavior that separate contractors who stay stuck from those who finally stabilize.
Short break, then the final segment. Stay tuned. We'll be right back after a short break. And hey, if you're a contractor looking to scale your business without adding more chaos, check out Contractor Plus. We're back, and this is the part where the conversation usually stops being about the market and starts being about identity. Because once contractors realize that the market isn't the problem, the question becomes harder. If demand is strong, why does this still feel so fragile? And that's where the real work begins.
The uncomfortable truth is that most contractors are running businesses that were designed for scarcity inside an economy that rewards control. They built survival machines, hustle machines, do everything yourself machines. And those machines don't magically turn into profit engines just because the phone rings more often.
A booming market doesn't forgive bad structure. It punishes it quietly. It lets problems grow under the surface because revenue creates noise. As long as money is moving, it feels like progress. But motion isn't direction.
One of the biggest mindset shifts contractors have to make is understanding their profit is not a reward for effort, it's a result of decisions. Two contractors can work the same hours, book the same revenue, and live completely different realities based on how they price, choose jobs, manage risk, and say no.
Saying no is huge. Most contractors don't fail because they lack opportunity. They fail because they lack filters. They accept work that doesn't fit their strengths, their crew, their systems, or their risk tolerance, and they justify it by saying, "We'll figure it out."
Figuring it out is expensive. Every time you stretch beyond what your business is built to handle, you pay for it in stress, rework, and margin loss. Discipline feels slow in a booming market, but it's the only thing that survives when the market cools.
Another major shift is separating ego from numbers. Contractors often tie their self-worth to how busy they are, how many jobs they have, how big their backlog looks. But busyness doesn't mean health. Sometimes it's a warning sign. Healthy businesses don't feel frantic. They feel boring, predictable.
Calm. And a lot of contractors are scared of that because chaos feels productive. Calm feels like something might be wrong. Calm is usually
A sign that systems are working.
Systems are what most contractors avoid until they're desperate. They feel restrictive. They feel corporate. But systems are just decisions you don't have to remake every day. Pricing systems, scheduling systems, change order systems, communication systems. Without systems, everything relies on memory and energy. Memory fails, energy runs out. Another critical change is how contractors view their role. Many still see themselves primarily as builders who happen to own a business. But once you employ people, manage cash flow, sign contracts, and carry risk, your primary job changes. You're a business owner who happens to understand construction.
That shift is painful because it means letting go of some control. It means trusting others. It means stepping out of the field sometimes and into uncomfortable conversations with numbers. But avoiding those conversations doesn't protect you. It just delays consequences. One of the most powerful changes contractors can make is reviewing jobs honestly after completion. Not emotionally, not defensively, just factually. What went right? What went wrong? Where time was lost, where money leaked. That kind of reflection
Turns experience into intelligence. Without it, experience just repeats itself.
Another big factor is charging for uncertainty instead of absorbing it. Contractors are used to pricing known quantities and hoping unknowns behave. In reality, unknowns deserve margin. Risk deserves compensation.
Customers don't pay for perfection, they pay for outcomes. Contractors who explain risk clearly and price accordingly attract better clients than those who hide risk to close deals.
Better clients are easier to work with. They respect boundaries. They understand change orders. They value professionalism.
And that circles back to profitability. Profit isn't just math, it's emotional health. Businesses that bleed owners emotionally eventually bleed financially.
Burned out owners make reactive decisions. They chase work instead of choosing it. They avoid conflict instead of addressing it. They underprice to keep things moving. None of that leads to profit.
The contractors who eventually break through financially aren't smarter or luckier, they're calmer. They slow down enough to see patterns. They stop confusing activity with achievement.
And they accept a hard truth. Not all growth is good growth. Some growth makes you poorer. Some growth makes you busier and weaker. Sustainable growth feels slower but compounds.
Another key difference is financial visibility. Contractors who know their numbers weekly make better decisions than those who glance at them quarterly. Awareness creates control.
And control creates confidence. Confident contractors don't race to the bottom on price. They don't panic when the lead says no. They don't overextend because they're afraid of the future.
They build businesses that can breathe.
So why don't most contractors make money in a booming market? Because markets don't create discipline. Contractors do. Markets don't create structure. Owners do. Markets don't protect margins. Decisions do.
The boom doesn't save you, it exposes you.
And the contractors who use a booming market to fix fundamentals, raise standards, build systems, and choose better work are the ones who survive when the boom ends.
everyone else wonders what happened.
This has been Hard Hat Chat. Don't confuse demand with profit. Don't confuse busy with successful. And don't wait for the market to change before you do.
We'll see you in the next episode.